Hey, welcome to the Midnight Quilt Show. Tonight's quilt has a lot, and I mean a lot, of half square triangles, but the end result is stunning and makes it all worth it. Plus, I have a free bonus video that will help show you how you can keep all your pieces together. Let's get to it. The quilt I'm working on is called Iridescence by Slice of Pie Quilts. Now the name is hard to spell, but it's easy to love, especially with all these gorgeous, boundless solids. Now I'm gonna admit, when I saw how many of these beautiful colors were in here, I thought, how am I ever gonna keep this straight? But Slice of Pie takes care of us with a chart that shows us exactly what goes where. So I can't wait to cut into these beautiful fabrics. Okay, so let's cut this up. I feel like I'm missing an important tool. Hold on a second. There we go, that's better. Isn't this cute? This is gonna help keep me from spilling it and help get me through all these half square triangles that we're gonna make. So all I'm doing these fat quarters are cutting them into 3-inch strips and 2.5-inch strips to sub-cut them into squares. Now I'm cutting out a ton of squares. It's so much more fun to do with a friend, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of these videos. And some beautiful gray background fabric. I have to say, I think gray is the perfect neutral. It's not so stark as white, it's nice and soft, and it really helps those colors pop. I mean, not that I'm a color expert or anything, but I like to think I know a little bit of something about gray. Once the strips are cut out, I'm gonna stack them and cut them into squares, and then we'll make those half square triangles. So we're gonna make 2 at a time half square triangles. You've seen it a lot here on the Midnight Quilt Show. You've probably seen it a lot on other quilt patterns. It's such a great way to make these quick. I've got my squares, I've got my wine sippy cup, so no spilling wine. I think it's gonna be a great night. Starting with my background squares, that beautiful gray, I'm gonna draw a line from corner to corner. And since I've gotta get this quilt done fast, I'm gonna mark a few out at a time. I'm gonna pair up a background square with each of my different colors so that I can see the line on the back, and I'm gonna sew 1/4 inch on each side. I have a long string of squares. I'm gonna cut them apart, and this will just make it so much quicker and really more satisfying, if I'm being honest. We call this the guillotine. Now, all I have to do is trim on that line, press them open, and trim them to 2.5 inches. So I may be playing it a little dangerous, but I kind of like stacking them on top of each other and then trimming. Okay, I'm gonna trim off those little dog ears. I didn't want to get off the chair to go get my little ruler, but this thing is just too crazy. Guess sometimes it's better to not be lazy. Okay. Much better. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming the dog ears. I'm trimming it down to 2.5, or somewhere around there, close enough to be fine. And I'm actually gonna use my 45-degree line to make sure I'm not trimming off too much on one side. I used to really not like this part of the process because it takes forever, but now it's just more time with me and my glass of piecing potion and just that nice time of night. Well, that's what I'm saying now. I have about 160 of these to make, so let's see how that turns out for me. Genius. I mean, pure genius. This was actually sent to me as a gift from a Midnight Quilt Show watcher who was so worried I was gonna spill my wine. So I thought, oh, that is pretty cute. So now it's gonna be my favorite little drinking glass. Oh, that was satisfying. Don't we just love pretty little piles of half square triangles? Now it's time to put it together in the block. There are 49 squares that make up this larger block, but it's not that hard to put it together because she gives you a diagram and everything. Trust me, at this time of night, that's amazing. So I'm gonna start with my hot pink blocks, adding them all in a ring around the outside of my block. Now I know this isn't how we would normally lay out our quilt blocks, but it really helps keep me from getting those colors mixed up. I mean, not that I would do that. The second ring is gonna get the sunshine blocks, that bright, beautiful yellow. And then all that's left is the center of the block with the butter, the flamingo, and the mint colors. And that looks awesome. Even though I laid it out in rings, I'm still gonna sew it together in rows and then sew the rows together. And just like that, the block is finished without a single piece out of place. Look how easy that is. Okay, I'm just joking. I put together a free bonus video that shows you the technique I used to get that block pieced perfectly. Now, let's see the rest of the blocks. Now it's time to take these blocks and sew them in rows. And I have to show you this one thing that I am super proud of. If you look at the back of this block, look how nice and pressed open those seams are. That took forever, but I think it looks awesome, and I'm gonna appreciate it when it comes quilting time. I think that deserves a reward if I do say so myself. And I do say so myself. Now, I'm not gonna show you what the backs of the other blocks look like. I figured one perfectly pressed block is better than none. And before you're super impressed by all my awesome color placement, don't be. Slice of Pie Designs, she figured out all the color placement, so all I had to do was follow her instructions. Well, now I need to sew these blocks together in a row and sew the rows together, and I'll have my quilt top. And this beautiful bright quilt top is finished, and it's time for my favorite part, the quilting. Let's get to it. So the quilt sandwich is basted, I'm ready to start quilting. Cannot wait. I'm gonna do some curved lines with continuous curve, contrast that with a little geometric dot-to-dot quilting, and of course I have to put swirls on it. Let's get going. In the corners of my 9 patch, I quilted a line that curved from one point in towards the center, out away from it and back, and then on to the next side. But in the rest of the blocks, I did just a basic continuous curve where I quilt a line that curves from point to point, working my way around that whole block, filling in those continuous curves, and then finishing up with a little bit of traveling, and then more of those florally, curvy kind of shapes in the corner. I just love how they're slightly different, but the same curved lines. Quilting a straight line from one part of the block to the furthest corner of that color and on to the next side, making a simple V like dot-to-dot quilting, and then echoing back inside so that I return to the starting point. Returning to the starting point means that it's really easy to travel along that seam and repeat in the next color. And I just love how these arrows are kind of adding more texture to that shape. Then continuing along the seam, because hey, I like stitching along these seams. I love how it looks. So going up the side and along the top of that area, and then going right into my swirls. So quilting my little swirl shape, echoing around it, adding my next swirl, echoing and filling in that whole area with that nice, beautiful swirl. I love how it squishes down that background and really makes those arrows kind of pop off. And for this little bitty rectangle area, I'm just gonna add a bit of echoing on both sides, and then some ribbon candy, because why not? It's just so adorable. Filling in that block with the ribbon candy, and transitioning on again to more stitching in the ditch, ending with more swirls in that beautiful gray background. This Iridescence quilt is finished, and I could not be happier with how it turned out. Normally, quilt patterns with tons of different colors, no matter how bright and beautiful, can be a little overwhelming to me, so I loved it that she helped give me a chart that helped me place the fabrics in just the perfect spot. I also had an amazing time with the quilting, playing with all my favorite designs, because why just choose one quilting design when you can use them all? And to finish it off with this pop of bright blue, beautiful binding. Binding's not usually my thing, but man, I love how it turned out. Thanks so much for joining me on another episode of the Midnight Quilt Show. Be sure to check out that bonus video. You are going to love the technique that means that no block would be out of place. And while you're at it, go ahead and scroll down and look for that little button that says subscribe. That means you won't miss any future episodes. Well, I'll see you next time. Happy quilting.